The GPU market is flooded right now, and one of the biggest GPUs that you can see some of the results is in the 4090. There are over 60 in stock at a local micro center. Now, this is definitely something notable because just a few months ago, I did a video where there weren't any 4090s in stock. This GPU is an interesting one because it's one that sold really well. It probably sold more than the 4080, and a few months ago, like, stock completely disappeared again. The 4090 has been like that ever since it came out. Remember, like, scalpers were selling it. A lot of people went for it because it's a gaming GPU that's basically the best you can buy, but also it's good for like content creation, it's good for 3D work, and recently they've been using it for like machine learning and AI. Obviously, for big companies, you want to get the big NVIDIA data center GPUs, but those have been pretty much sold out and very difficult to get, not to mention very expensive. So for a smaller operation, especially in certain places overseas, like in China, for example, where the 4090 is actually banned because it's way too powerful, they even made a 4090D, it was like the Dragon Edition, which is a little bit undercut and it kind of skirts the ban a little bit. And now let's hear a word from our sponsor, VIP-CDKdeals.com, a Windows Pro CD key. Add to cart, you put in code CC20. This will also work on Windows 11. You want to go into your settings in Windows, change and adjust your CD key, click activate, and now let's go back to the video. So basically all of the 4090s were pretty much gone. I remember going to the local micro center, there was maybe only like one in stock, and it was like, one of the water cooled ones that was a little bit too expensive. Now, I was pretty shocked when I checked what GPUs were available, and I saw over 60, I think it was almost 70 that I counted, only at one local micro center. So now, since there's so many GPUs, you do have a better range of 4090s, but they're all pretty expensive. The price definitely went up a bit, maybe by like 10% on most of these 4090s. The Asus Strix were always pretty expensive, around $2,000, but then some of them, like the PNY, it used to be like $1,630 or so, because I remember I bought one at this very micro center, and now that same GPU is like $1,850 or thereabouts. So that went up a pretty decent amount, and it's also fairly difficult to find a $1,599 4090. It's just something you don't find at all. That's the MSRP, and even the Founders Edition is that price, but good luck finding one of those. They basically never come up anymore. Like Best Buy and NVIDIA were the only two sources, and very difficult to find the Founders Edition unless you go on like the secondhand market or something like that. So that also shows that, all right, nobody's going to buy 70 GPUs after it's been out for such a long time, or at least groups of people are not going to buy it, not one person. But it really shows how much stock that they have. I bet you those 70 GPUs are probably going to stay in stock until like RTX 50 series comes out, and maybe that's why a lot of people are holding off now. If you haven't gotten something like a 4090, or you don't want to buy a GPU because you're waiting for the 50 series, it could be a pretty substantial upgrade. They're saying like the 5090 could have as much as, I don't know, 50 to 70% better performance than a 4090. That's pretty crazy, but if you consider how much better a 4090 was than a 3090, and the fact that NVIDIA has so many resources now, especially with AI really booming, that they definitely have what it takes to make a GPU that powerful and give us this huge generational jump, so that way they stay at the forefront of not only data centers and AI, but also of gaming. So that way AMD even seems to be discouraged in a lot of their high-end GPUs. There was some talk that RDNA 4 was going to have just like mid-range GPUs, maybe something like 7800 XT, or their 7900 equivalent would compete with like 4070s and below, and then they would leave stuff like the 4090 competition, the 7900 XTX, maybe off the table for the next generation. I hope they don't do that. I hope even if they don't perform as well as NVIDIA, they at least try, just like they did with the 7900 XTX, because or else if NVIDIA is just dominant at the top end, they're going to keep charging $2,000 plus for these GPUs, and we're not going to have any real competition or anything like that. So it's very important to have competition. If it's not AMD, nobody else is going to do a high-end GPU aside from NVIDIA. Intel is barely scratching that sort of like lower end to mid-range market, so they're not going to have anything ready. So AMD is really the last bastion of hope in order to compete against NVIDIA, or else It's going to be basically like it's been NVIDIA competing against itself. Either you buy a 5090 or maybe you save some money and the closest competition is going to be what, a 5080? If a 5080 performs better than a 4090 now, I'm sure a lot of people will definitely go for that, especially if it has any little tweaks to stuff that makes like ray tracing better, DLSS. Remember, the 40 series is the only one that can really adequately do stuff like DLSS 3 with frame generation because it has the built-in hardware powerful enough to do it. You could, technically do it on like a 30 series GPU, but because it doesn't have the particular hardware to be able to do exactly what the 40 series does, it doesn't really, work on it that well. 50 series, especially with AI basically around the corner and here now, as we see with NVIDIA being the leading company, they can put in some hardware specifically for AI or for, stuff like DLSS, where maybe they're going to go above frame generation. Maybe there's something else. Who knows what type of technology they'll introduce. But in order to entice buyers from the already powerful, 4090 and even 4080, they're going to want to really include those things in the new GPUs. And then that kind of shows you why people definitely want to wait. Very interesting to see what's going to happen, but interesting to see so many 4090s in stock. I wonder what happened that they got such big shipments on expensive GPUs. I'm going to keep an eye on them and see if they actually sell in any decent numbers. But all right, guys, hope you liked the video. Remember to subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video.